I base a lot of my characters on real people, whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not. And a lot of the interactions I have, some are combinations of people I know, and so that helps to keep it grounded. And then, obviously as I started working with Prentice and we opened the writer's room and we had discussion. The world gets bigger of the people that we know and the experiences that we all collectively have. And so, I always say that every writer has a piece or a morsel or a chunk of their lives in this show, and that's what helps to keep it so real and so relatable. Like, you can reference any story that we've had this season, and I can pinpoint like, oh, this came from this particular story from that this writer had, or my own life, or an experience that we collectively had, or a discussion that we had. And I think that's what helps to keep the show sort of vibrant and feel rooted. And of course, once our actors have actually given us stories and contributed that we've stolen, specifically in the second season, that you'll see.
But no writer's credit?
No writer's credit. No, we don't do that.
You had such a magnificent first season, and it was a magnificent first season. But did you feel at the end, like, were you kind of like rejuvenated or exhausted by it? And like, how am I going to tell more stories out of this?
Speaking for myself, I was excited to tell more stories. Just like there's so many places that we could go, and and having conversations. Like, the first thing we did, let's be clear, after we wrapped, is we went to New Orleans and we partied and we premiered the first episode. I was on a 72-hour champagne diet, and it was extraordinary.
It's a very good diet.
It's a great diet.
If you do it right, it's a very good diet.
I did it right. But I think the next thing that we did is we sort of regrouped and started just spitballing like ideas that we had.
At least the last 2 years, once we found that we got picked up, and the beginning of this year, Issa and I do a very thing where we sort of go to a hotel and drink a lot of mimosas and just have.
So basically, you guys just go back to New Orleans.
We just basically go to champagne. We just keep the champagne flowing.
So is there a New Orleans episode in season 2?
No, but she and I would sort of talk about themes we want to explore. And we did that the first season, and we did the second season. It was like, sort of, where do we want to take these characters to sort of an arc, for the season? What types of things are happening to them? And for this season, it was fun, too, because obviously a lot of our storylines last year were like Lawrence and Issa dependent. And now that they had broken up, we got to see more of his life and see more of his world. And then once we sort of talk about ideas we want to hit, we sort of bring in our writers, and we sort of retreat and kind of hole up for a couple of days. And again, just keep talking out and hearing what the writers think and kind of telling them what we're thinking. And it kind of just becomes a snowball of ideas sort of back and forth. And then we just sort of start putting stuff up on cards and trying to see sort of what sticks and what's feeling relevant.
Because, we got the scripts like almost right before the table read. So it was just like, well, what happens next? It's like I'm on the show, but I'm still like, wait, what happens next? And
do I keep my job?
What does Molly do now? And it was always a surprise. And I was like, and I would really be like, so who does this? Because did something happen like this in real life? Okay. Okay, cool. I think I can tap into that. But they made all of the characters so juicy and so real and relatable. And because that they did occur in someone's real life, it was easy to just kind of get into it.
I do think there's moments, though, when we're on set sometimes, and if we're not sure, at least I find myself, if I'm not fully sure of something, I will go to Issa, Prentice, Melina, any of the writers who might be there that day producing. Like, I will go to them and say, like, hey, so, like, can you just give me a heads up of, like, help me understand where this kind of came from and where, you know what I mean? And it's great because, like, as Issa was saying, so many of the stories come from the writers. So you're really seeing their lives played out on TV.
Yep.
Well, you're writing, you're the co-creator, you've got a lot of stuff on your shoulders doing this.
Well, when you're like creating content online, you're doing a lot of that anyway, and you're the craft services, you're the talent, you're directing, you're producing, you're doing all of those things, and you're not necessarily doing it well, but you're just trying to.
You did a pretty good job, you said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can acknowledge that.
Thank you. But it is, a lot already, and you're doing it for no money. And so I think the transition of working with people who are, good at what they do, who are passionate, who do it well, and who it kind of felt like a breath of relief. Like, I remember telling our line producer at the time on the pilot that I felt like this is a vacation, because I was like, I'm wearing multiple hats, but I'm wearing one hat at a time. And to be able to trust the people that you work with is such a huge relief.
I had been the only person of color in a lot of writer rooms, and while they were great, I was just like, I feel like I need to say something else and be a part of something else. And when I read the script, it just spoke to me in a way that just like, you know, when something just hits your inside, it just rings true. So when I teamed up with Issa, and when she allowed me to come on a journey with her, I mean, I honestly felt like two slaves, like we about to do this shit. Like we about to go buck wild and do whatever we want. Cause that's just how I felt, you know, because I felt unencumbered by sort of what I had known or whatever. And in some ways, I mean, I had been working for a long time, but in some ways I was very rose-colored glasses. Like, well, why can't we? You know what I mean? Then we teamed up with Melina, and then it was like, Melina's always like, let's do this, let's do that. So
why can't we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, the material is groundbreaking, and I also think the way it's told is groundbreaking. You know, just the fact that
You can applause to that.
we are people of color telling our own stories and coming from these different worlds, you know, and trusting in each other's different experiences to add to it. And because there are no preconceptions, there's no boundary, you know, and there's no line that we have to stay on one side of, you know. And I think we all push each other to do better and to make the best show possible.